Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 42 of the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 9 race games. Now with this one, I took some liberties. I didn't do all just race themed. I did race mechanism as well, where the mechanism of the game kind of felt like a race. How about you, Carla? What did you do?
Yeah, I mostly did. Actually, I think all of mine are like race. Well, no, not technically, but most of mine are race mechanism. Because there's sometimes a race mechanism where you race to the end, but then you add up all the points. So I didn't include those, but those went very well. You know, like I didn't include Arcanova or Rajas the Ganges because you are racing to connect your two different scores. But then at the end, you add a bunch of stuff and people could surpass you. So it still kind of gives me that heart racing vibe, but it still doesn't necessarily mean that you win. So I did include those two, but they would, I think, qualify as a race theme. But yeah.
No, I did the same thing where reaching the end goal kind of first made you the winner. There was no other things that kind of interrupted that. Wonderful. Now, before we get into that, Carla, what have you been playing lately?
So I've been playing, we had kind of like a Halloween themed day where we played a few Halloween themed games. And one of them I played that I usually make whoever's gaming with me during Halloween, I always make them play Broom Service.
Oh, nice.
Which I play once per year. But it was fun because I have played with a big group before, but I haven't for a long time. And so I got to play with it was a 4-player game. And typically the last few years, it's only been me and Cherry playing, so it's not as fun, but it's still such a unique game, and I'll always stay in my collection. You have this, when you look at the board, it looks like a children's board game. It looks like a roll and move, and you're just rolling around, like to move around and do things. But the neat thing was that you have, everybody has a hand of cards that is like, you all have the same cards, and you have like different witches or gatherers or what's the other one? Not harvesters, but there's a couple different things. And what you're trying to do is move around this board, collect potions, and then deliver them to towers, because that'll give you the points. But you also want to follow, like, there's event cards that will make you do different things. Like you might need to like hand in a bunch of resources, like a set of them, and then you'll get a whole bunch of points at the end of the round. So it depends on each round what you're going to do. But the neat thing is, so each card on it has you can either be a brave or a cowardly, either witch or gatherer or weather fairy or something. And if you're the first player, you're going to play a card, and then you will most likely be cowardly, because if you say you're brave and somebody else around the table is brave, you get to do nothing. But if you just say, I'm going to be a cowardly gatherer, and you'll get to gather like 1 potion instead of taking 3 if you were brave. You could gamble and just go, okay, I'm going to be a brave, whatever type of gatherer, a root gatherer or something. And then if nobody else is, you get to take all 3 of these items, which is cool. So it's kind of you don't want to be first because you're the one who's always going to probably have to be cowardly, but kind of near the end of the round, it gets kind of interesting because people will just go for it and they'll be like, I'll be brave. And then a lot of times you'll get it and you'll get to do those things. And the thing is, but the order of the cards matter, because if you have planned out, okay, I need to move my pawn here and then move it here and then deliver it, it doesn't always work out that way, because if somebody else played the card you wanted to play first, you have to follow them. So whether you choose to just be cowardly or brave, you can't save that card and wait until you want it to do it. So sometimes your plans just get all messed up and you just have to go with it. But it's a quick game. I think it's only 7 or 8 rounds, something like that. And it's just, I don't know, I find it fun. I'm not sure that everyone at the table loved it, but they didn't hate it. But
it's a neat one.
And it's an Alexander Pfister game. So it was one of his first. He was with Andreas Status, or I think the name was. But it was kind of fun. And then the next one we played was Circadians First Light. Now this one I hadn't ever played, but Ashley had pre-ordered it, and so she brought it, and it was really neat. It's a dice placement game, which I love. It's a Shem Phillips game, and it was an earlier design of his. I think right around the time he did the North series, either before or right after, but definitely before he did the West series. So this one, it's in space. So that was one reason I'd never bought this game, just because of the theme, but it did intrigue me because of all the placement. And so you start with a hand of dice and you roll them, and then you have player mats that you can place them on to either at the top of your board, which will let you go use those dice out in the middle with all the different worker placement spots, or you can put them in your farm, and that will like give you certain resources depending how many dice you put there and how many pips. And what you're trying to do is, of course, get the most points at the end, but to do that, you need to build farms and spaceships, which will improve your abilities on your board. And then you're trying to go out, and there's this big point board where you're trying to like get on that board, but those dice will stay there forever. So then there's another one that'll give you more workers, which are dice. There's also another board that you'll go on to fulfill these like objective cards. And some of these cards that you fulfill will give you things right now, and some of them are end game points. So it's just really unique. And then, you also have this harvester board where you can move these little discs around, and wherever your disc is at the end of the round, you get to harvest like your farm on your board, but you also get the things that are under your ring there. So it's quite unique. It's not like another dice placement that I played. It's really kind of neat. I've only tried it the one time. I want to play it again. But I tried to go with the strategy of not going on the final end game point board. And I thought, if I just work at my own objectives and, farm and do things, I'm going to just see if you don't really need to go on that board. But I think you do, because I think I came last, and I didn't get enough end game points. So I think you really kind of need to have at least 1 or 2 dice on that board to give you some bigger points. But it was really neat. Another one we played that I played last weekend is a new game. It's called Fun Facts. Now this is in the trilogy of Just One and So Clover. So this is their third.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So cooperative kind of thing. But what you do is you have these little plastic arrows, and of course they're a dry erase. So everybody has their color, and then you pull out a card, and there's a question. And the question might be, how many days would you give up in your life to become a billionaire? So then everybody writes a number on there. And then if I was the reader of the card, I will put my number, plop it face down so nobody sees it, and then I'll stick my arrow in the middle of the table. Then the next person will do, everybody will do the same, and they'll put theirs on the table, but they have to either put it less than mine or more than mine. So if they think, oh yeah, you are all about money, and you would probably give up 10 years of your life, and so they would do that, and so on. Then when it comes back to me, I can move mine if I think, no, I actually know that those two, whatever. So once you end that, then you'll flip them all over, and you'll try to have them in sequential order. And it's kind of neat, because there's some funny questions. I'll just give one more out. I don't want to ruin them all, but there's one that, how many people do you think you could beat in an arm wrestling match at this table?
Oh, jeez.
And just things like that. And it's like, so I played it with my daughter and her friend and my friend, which we've all been friends for so long, and the girls have grown up together. So we played it, and it was so fun. I can't wait to play it with
funny.
A gamer group and family, because people that and stuff. And you can play up to, I think it's 8 or 10 people.
Wow.
But
that's good. I had never heard of this one.
Yeah, no, it was really neat. So that I kind of was humming on about that one, and then I thought, oh no, I'm gonna try it tonight with these guys, and then I was happy with it.
It sounds like it'd be a neat one over the holidays with, a bunch of family there, and yeah, that's cool.
I think so. And then one more I'll talk about is I borrowed Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle from Mel.
Oh right.
And just during Halloween, I've been going through all the movies. I'm just about done them again. I just love
Nice.
the movies. And I'm not even like, that's not even my theme. Like, I'm not even into that at all, but I just love the movies. So I borrowed the game and I tried it solo. I played 3 or 4 games and I really like it, but I would prefer to play it with other people.
I think so.
It's like, yeah, you can do it yourself, but deck building alone, I don't know. I would rather play it with others, and I don't really have anyone other than you, Mal, would probably play it with me, obviously, but nobody else is a Harry Potter fan around me, so.
But you know what? You don't have to be. Like, the gameplay is neat enough.
No,
and then
it's
also,
not like
while I was at FallCon,
yeah.
I saw the Toy Story version of that same game.
Yes, I would like to try that one. I think I could get others on board with that one. More than the Harry Potter, which is too bad. But it's really neat. And just, especially while I'm delving into all the characters now, and you just like go through the cards and you're like, oh yeah. So
that's cool.
It's really cool. But yeah, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I had like a game night for Halloween as well on the 30th. So just a day before. We had some friends over. We had like snacks and supper and then just played all sorts of games. One of them that we played that one was the Flickem Up Dead of Winter. And it was neat. We kind of set up the whole town because you have all these kind of cardboard houses on standees that you set up. And then we just played the first scenario, which is a co-op, because it's interesting. There's 10 different scenarios you can set up. Some are co-op, some are competitive, where there's 2 teams. And we were playing co-op, and then we're trying to get one of our characters into the RV, and then have it so that we have only 3 zombies standing. Now, pretty sure we played this one a little bit wrong, because when we brought in new zombies and then made them fall down the tower, where they landed, we left them laying down. We didn't put them up, so it was easier to get to just the 3. But this was the first time for my friend to play this one, and it was really neat. Like, we kind of set it all up. We all pull our chairs a little bit away from the table, and you're going around flicking. And I'm a terrible knife thrower. I hit nothing. It didn't even go in the right direction. But the whole thing is so interesting because it's just a different skill level, and it's just a different type of play. So it was neat. And then it looks so neat because you have all the zombies and you have like the little characters, and then they have like the scene all set up, and it was cool. After that one, we played Nyctophobia, which is one that I bought a while ago. Yeah, I was excited to try it, and it was neat. So they're wearing these blackout sunglasses, basically, but you put these on and you just don't see anything. And on their turn, and I was the one kind of playing the axe murderer, and then you set up like the board and you set up this map, and it's kind of a maze, and their goal was for them to find the car and then call for help, and to do that before any of them died. And then, so on their turn, you kind of put your finger out, and then the person that's playing the bad guy was kind of like, "Kate, well, here you are," and you kind of make them feel where they're at, and everything is very tactile, right? It's like, okay, to the north of you, you have trees, and you can feel these pokey thing that shows that it's trees. And then to the east of you, and then there's like just a hole there, so there's nothing there. And to the south of you, oh, there's more trees. And then to the west of you, well, that's the table, so you're on the edge, so then you have to go east or whatever. And but it seems so interesting because you're moving through this maze and you got to go by memory because you're not physically seeing it. So you got to, okay, well, I went this way. So in your mind, you got to try to remember the path that you took. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, and there's like, okay, to the west of you. And then there's like, what is that? It's like, that's Craig. You found Craig. It's like, oh, where am I? Like, and then all of a sudden, like, they kind of connected with each other. It's like, okay, well, if you're all the way here, you've gone too far north. There's no car here. Like, and it's like, okay, well, let's go try to look in this corner. Like, and it was interesting. But then at the same time, you know, like the axe murderer is moving around, and they ended up not winning. but it was it was neat, and I really want to try this again where I'm one of the blind ones. So I think that'd be interesting. And then for my birthday, you guys got me Pocket Detective, and I've played the first scenario for the first time, and it was so cool. And it plays a lot like an unlock game, but it's definitely a murder mystery, right? And then you have the deck of cards. There's no app, it's all on the deck of cards, which is kind of nice. And then I played this one just by myself solo. The boys were playing. They were working on stuff in the garage. So I was like, oh, I'm going to play a game. So then I set this up. And the way that this works is when like you kind of set it up and then you have the murder set up in front of you and you have like the body and you have like the crime scene and all these and the cards and you can flip them up. And it'll kind of tell you like so you check the body and then it tells you about the body and it says, okay, well, you can get the autopsy report, but it's going to take some time before it's ready. So you got to wait till you've revealed 7 times before you can go and review the autopsy report. So I did the mistake because okay, so we want to uncover time then. So I uncovered a lot of time. But you don't. And this probably would have worked a little bit as a race one because you're trying to discover what's important with as little time as possible. But I was just kind of flipping everything over. So by the time I kind of got to where, okay, I know who it is. That's this person. And then it's like, okay, so you've because it'll be like, okay, if you want to talk to this person, go find card C5. If you want to investigate this person, go find card D3 or whatever. And then you would pull out these cards and be like, okay, well, I want to do this one. And it kind of gives you an idea of how much time it would take to do that. And then be like, okay, well, do you want to investigate their finance? Do you want to canvass the neighborhood and ask about that person? There's different things, but some of this stuff is just a waste time trap, basically, right? So you're trying to stay focused on the murder and then find the murderer and ideally make an arrest. But with this particular scenario, when I found like, hey, well, who, and then it's like, hey, go find this. If like you got to tally up all the time. If you had less than this amount, then you could go and get this card. Otherwise, he's gotten away. I was like, oh, shit. So if anybody ever dies and you need me to solve your murder, it's going to be a cold case.
How many scenarios are in there?
There's 3. So that was the first one. So I'm excited to try the other ones. And the other ones, I'm prepared now. I know you don't want to just uncover all these times. Because then at the end, you have your score. And then you'd be like, okay, well, if you've kind of discovered who it was, you get like 100 points. But if you weren't able to arrest him because he got away, then you get 80 points. Then you get -1 for every time symbols you revealed. And then I was like, okay, so I'm down to 39 points. And it's like, it was like 41 points and lower. Well, you're not really good at this. It's like, oh, darn. But it was really neat, kind of the whole reading the story. Kind of was like, okay, well, I'm going to go and question the wife or, like, and all that process was so cool. I enjoyed that a lot. And then yesterday, Lily's home for the weekend, and she's in a board game playing mood. It's so great. She's like, okay, I think we should play board game. And I think we played like 8 or 10 different games last night. Nice. So we set it up, and then I got a few. Well, we played Tempura, which I've talked about not too long ago. I think that's her new favorite game. She pulls that one out, and we played a few rounds every time.
But can you only play that with 3 and up, right?
3 and up. Yeah, Sully was playing with us as well.
Oh, okay.
And then we ended up playing Miaui as well, which is like the cat diving one for fish. And then we played... Yeah, it was neat.
Talked about it.
And then we played Kodoma, the tree spirit. And that one is so cool. It's like a puzzle game, but you're building a tree. So you have your big card, that's the trunk. And then you add these branch pieces that you kind of overlap to each other to kind of make your branch grow longer, but there's different symbols on it, and you can score like for as long as the symbol goes down on this. So let's say there's a firefly, and then the next like the next one was also had a firefly, and then the other one had two fireflies, and then it's the trunk and it had a firefly. Then I would get to score all the firefly symbols, and then you would kind of score that. And then any recurring symbols that kind of goes down this branch, you can score until there's a gap. So if I had like one branch that had a cloud, this one, the next one didn't, but then the one after that did, then I can't score the cloud because there's a gap in there. So it was really neat. And it looked so cute. And you're creating all these branches, and then your card can't overlap more than one card. So you're kind of trying to make it so that they're not touching each other. It was such a cute, neat looking game. It was super simple to pick up and play. But yeah, it was great. And then the table presence was just amazing. So that was Kodoma, the tree spirit. And then I think that's all I'll talk about. Most of the other ones we end up playing are, Love Letter and stuff that we've talked about lots. So
nice. Or you can see all the pictures on Instagram.
That's right. I post a lot of pictures. Yeah. So
or Facebook as well, I guess.
Exactly. So be sure to go and check those out because I mean, and honestly, I post a lot. Mm-hmm. It's true. So I'm very busy on there. So you can definitely kind of almost follow my entire board game life on there. Yeah. So now, let's start about our top 9 race games. So any honorable mention for you, Carla?
I have a couple.
Of course.
Well, one of them is the whole GIPF series. It's basically you're just racing to do something. So either like remove somebody's different pieces or put yours in a certain order or whatnot. But I didn't list it here just because all of their whole series is that way. And again, I always promote this series and love it so much. And it's a 2-player only thing, but it's so fun. Another one is Abandon All Artichokes. Now, it might be on your list, I'm not sure, but it's such a good game too. And you're just racing. There it is right behind her. It's a deck building game, and all you're doing is racing to open like when you grab your new set of cards, if you flip them all up and none of them are artichokes, you've won the game. Sounds easier than it actually is, but the mechanics in it are so neat because you're just trying to like compost all these artichokes, but then some people will keep putting more in your deck or take your good cards out that are going to help you get rid of those, and it's kind of fun too. And then there's 2 more, but I'm not going to list them because they could be on yours. And they're both very good games. I just haven't played them very recently at all, so they didn't make my top 9. But what about you?
You know what? A long time ago, I had purchased Dale of Merchant. And I didn't expect to be a race game, so we weren't playing it like it was a race game. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, it was such I guess I won. So that, to me, and I mean, like, the Dice Tower was just raving about it, and then I didn't end up keeping it, but I think playing it again, if I had kept it, knowing it is a race game, we kind of changed the whole feel of it. And this one was kind of cool because it was a deck building, and you're collecting cards and adding them to your deck, and there's different abilities that each card can do. But ultimately, the goal is to play cards under each kind of location so that it tallies up to the number that it needs to be. And you can kind of put multiple cards to add up to it. And you're trying to clear out these locations, but you can't do that without having drawn some cards. So you're trying to draw some cards to your deck. But at the time, it was just like, oh, okay. And we're playing it. And I was like, oh, okay, so I guess it's done. And the other player that I was playing with at the time didn't really want to be playing for one. So then that kind of wrecked the experience.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing it as a race either, so it's just like, okay, are we done now? Like,
oh, yeah. See, and I had the same experience like that. I bought it. I have Dale Merchants 2. I bought, and I was looking so forward to it from all the hype from Dice Tower and Broken Meeple. Just loves this as well. And so I played it. I don't think there's a solo variant, but anyway, I played it with Cherry, and I don't think she really liked it. So and ended up winning because I was racing and I wasn't really building my deck that much.
Yeah.
Just trying to complete what I needed to do. And so then she was just like, okay. And I'm like,
yeah, it just felt so anticlimactic to me. Like it was like,
But I
okay.
think you're right. I think you need to play it with people who like it, like that kind of thing. So I kind of have it hovering between my sell and keep, but I want to try with more people to see because, I mean, I love the animal. The factions are so cool because they're all so different.
Oh, the artwork is gorgeous.
And you can mix and match. And, yeah.
And the theme behind it is great, but it's just like, I don't know. To me, it was like, it felt like false advertisement. I was like, this wasn't what it was promised to be. For the number of like symbols that was showing up on the lid of this box, like I expected more, but I think it's just the way that the play went and the person I played with and our expectations. We weren't playing it right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, well, we'll have to give it a try together then.
Yeah,
so we're both kind of interested in it.
Because we know it's a race.
Yeah, it's a race.
Yeah, and I wonder if you're going into it with that knowledge and that expectation, if it does change the feel of the game.
Well, we did go in with that expectation, so I just did that, but I think Cherry was building up her deck more.
Right.
And maybe not watching that I was like already at 1, 2, 3, I don't know if you
right.
to 6 or something. I already had
something like that, yeah.
5 piles, and she was at like 2. So I'm like, I did tell her the rules, but maybe she's thinking she's going to do a whole bunch of in one, like
maybe, a
few turns. So
well, I mean, and it is like you get kind of caught up into like, oh, I'm gonna get this one, I'm gonna get this one. I'm building my deck, so
neat.
it's yeah. So yeah, that's one I could see that it had that race mechanism to it, but definitely I need to try that again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's it for your honorable mentions.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into it. My number 9 is called Piraten Kapern, made in 2012 by Haim Schiffer. Now, I've talked about this one before on like small dice games. I think I have it in several episodes I've talked about it. I'm not sure which themes, but now this is basically, if you've ever played the game 10,000 as a kid, which is just with normal dice, you're just rolling dice and trying to get to a high number, and then you'll keep it. You have to open with 500. And then, but once you get there, then you could keep going. So if I rolled like 3 ones, it would have given me 1,000 points. But you'd have to roll them all at once. And then, but every 1 is 100 and every 5 is 50. So once you like say all your dice were 1s and 5s, you could like accumulate that score and then roll all your dice again. But as soon as you bust, meaning you don't get anything that'll count, then you go back to 0. So this one is kind of a riff on that, but has a little bit of a theme. So it has like a pirate theme, and they're all like unique dice. And what you're trying to do is roll like gems and little monkeys and parrots, and you're trying to get sets of things. But the neat thing in it is there's also cards in the game. So you always get 1 card per roll, like anytime it's your turn. And the card could give you like an extra gem. It could give you an extra parrot. It could let you double everything you do. It could let you take points from other people. So it's just kind of neat, and the dice are so cute, and it's a total race, because this one you're just racing to 6,000 points, and the first one to get there is the winner. And I mean, everyone has equal turns, but if they don't get to it or get higher, then they don't win. So it's not like you have to add up points at the end. You're like, well, I mean, you technically do, but it's not like you have to like go through all these different things to add up points. You just basically race to get there and push your luck, trying to get the highest points. And that's my number 9, Piraten Kapern.
My number 9 is one of those that isn't really a race-themed games, but it is like a race game. But I gotta say, like, I have boys, so I've got a lot of race theme as well. But my number 9 is Girating Hamsters. That one was published in 2017. It's created by Andrew and Allison Gerpsch, and Alex and Rebecca host, and they self-published this one. Now, I've just checked. I've played this game 32 times. And when you have a collection of over 500 games, that's a lot of plays. This is one that we just get to again and again, and we go into a spurt where we're playing it all the time. And actually, we ended up playing it yesterday. This was one of the games that Lily pulled out for us to play.
Nice.
And this is a bit like the Dale of Merchant was the very first time I played it. And I remember we were camping and my friend was there and then me and her set it up and we played the two of us. And it was like at the end, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I won. And it was just like, huh, do I like this game? And I wasn't sure if I did. So I just kind of packed it up and put it away. And I think it's just like, learning this game, it just didn't have the feel that it was supposed to have. And then we ended up pulling it out again. But it is good. But this is like you're racing dirty as well. So the goal is to reach 16 hamsters in your horde. Or 9 if they're from the same clan. The artwork is silly and it's cutesy. And you have like the hipster hamster, or you'll have the hibachi cook hamster. And you have like all these different kind of cartoony drawings of all these silly hamsters. But you can play, some will give you abilities where you can play an extra card or you can draw an extra card or different things. But it's fairly simple. You draw 2 cards and then you play 2 cards. And then you're adding to your hamster horde, or you can have some action cards that'll do things. And then sometimes it'd be like, okay, this makes it so that everybody has to take a hamster out of their horde and then they got to discard it. And it's like, oh, really? And then there's also some chaos card that'll come in. And then hurricane. So let's say I'm at 10 hamsters and Lily's at 5 and Lee's at 3 and I'm doing really well. And then all of a sudden a hurricane comes and it takes everybody's hamsters, shuffle it, and then you just distribute it evenly. And I'm like, what? And then there's so many times where you're like so close and something happens that just messes you up. And then at the end of your turn, after the first round, you can't do it the first round, but after the second round and so on, at the end of your turn, you can battle another player. Either do, okay, I'll battle you my hibachi hamster to get your Hollywood hamster. And then you roll the dice and whoever rolls the highest gets both hamsters. Or you can do horde versus horde. So it was, okay, I'm battling my orange hamsters against your orange hamsters. You have 3, so you get 3 dice. I have 4, so I'm going to roll all 4 of my dice. And then whoever wins takes like the whole set of the clan of those hamsters. But I mean, like, it's risky in a way because you're putting your hamster up to potentially lose, but then you could, like, it gets a little bit, take that to it. And then Nick has sworn this one off. He will not play this one again.
Oh, really?
Lee, when we first got started with this, and like at one point he's like, "That's it, I'm not playing," and we went to bed. And he's woke, like he didn't wake me up. I wasn't asleep yet. He's like, "Okay, let's go try one more time." And we like got out of bed and got this game back to the table. It's just one that we love to hate. Like it keeps pulling us back. Lily, I think, really secretly loves take that games, so she adores this one. But it's been great. We've played this so many times. So that's my number 9, Girating Hamsters.
Awesome. Yeah, you talk about this one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number 8 is Can't Stop, made in 1980 by Sid Saxon. This is an oldie, but it just, the original game looks just like a piece of plastic and some pegs, basically, and dice. So you're like, oh, like a roll and move? I don't know. But it's not a roll and move. It's a push your luck. Just roll the dice and you try to move up these tracks as fast as you can. But the thing is, you can keep rolling and keep moving as long as you have 3 pegs that you get to use each turn, that you get to move up. Like, so if I roll a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6, I can add those in combinations of 2 dice, however I want. So I could do a 7 and 11. So then I'd put a peg on the 7, I put a peg on the 11, and then I can stop there, or I can re-roll, and hopefully I get a 7 or 11 again, because I mean, I do have another peg, I can get one more number, but say I had the 7, the 9, and the 11 tracks going right now, and I rolled and I got another 9. Perfect, I can move up that one. But if as soon as you keep rolling and don't roll any of those numbers, you don't get to even move up your main color. So we all have colors, but these pegs will go as far as you stop. But as soon as you bust, those pegs come off the board and you stay where you were at the beginning of your roll. So it's just okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to get up this track, because as soon as you get to the top of one track, nobody else can get up there. And you're trying to just get to the top of 3, and that's the race. So it's just a real simple like mechanic, and it sounds almost boring, but it's really fun, and it really kind of gets your heart pumping because you're just like, okay, I've got these 2 tracks, I'm just gonna keep going for it. Bust, crap, now it's, you gotta wait for your turn and then hope that nobody else gets up that track that you need to get up to win the game. But of course everyone's going to be trying to get up that track now, so it's so fun. And they've kind of made this into a whole bunch of different themes. There's like a hiking version where you're hiking up a mountain, which is the one I want to find. I've only played it on BGA, and I made my own version of the game with cards, and I just placed the cards in these like reverse pyramids and used dice. I had surgery on my foot last winter, and so I was stuck home, on the couch, basically couldn't do much. So I had come up with all these things. Oh, I'm going to make my own version of that. And it's just really tacky and stupid, but it worked. It was the same game, but I am looking for the hiking version of it. But that was my number 8. Oh, and you can play this on BGA. It's very addicting on there too. So that's Can't Stop.
Yeah, that one's 8. On my wish list too.
Yeah.
My number 8 is another one that we ended up playing yesterday, me and Lily. And it's funny because I made this list before.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I didn't make it today. Like my list was already made when she's pulling all these games to play. And this is Dr. Eureka. And this one was published in 2015. It was created by Roberta Fraga, and it's a blue-orange game. And this is a really it's a tactile race game. Like you have 3 beakers that has 2 marbles of different colors in it. And you flip a card, and the card will have a picture of the 3 beakers with the marbles in there in different combination in different orders. And then you have to take what you've got and move one marble to the other without dropping them to the table from one beaker to the other, trying to duplicate the pattern that is on the picture. And the first one to get that yells out Eureka, and then you get that card. And then you're doing that until somebody has 5 cards, and then they win the game. So we played this one. I think we played 2 or 3 rounds of it. But it's just like, and then sometimes like you just, oh my God, okay, what do I need to do? And it takes a while to kind of figure out what you need to do and then get going. You can turn your beaker upside down to kind of reverse the order of the colors as a way of kind of matching the thing. And then it's hectic, and it's just so much fun though. It's such a neat, and it looks like a little kid's game, and it probably is great to play with little kids. I think they would struggle a little bit with it, but it's just neat, big, chunky marbles in these kind of clear beakers, and you just moving them back and forth trying to get the proper pattern, and it's just a lot of fun. And that's my number 8, Dr. Eureka.
Yeah, that does sound fun. All right, my number 7 is Euphoria, made in 2013 by Jamie Stegmaier and Alan Stone. Now, this is a dice placement, but it's kind of unique in that there's all these different factions on the board, and you're trying to do different things, collect resources from them, kind of mine into their, because they're underground, I believe. You're trying, except for the one, but you're trying to kind of dig down into them deeper, and then you get this really neat reward or ability. And then you're also trying to move these factions up on a different track, and once you do that, then you will get other bonuses as well. But the race part about it is you're trying to race to get to, now is it 6 stars? I can't even remember the number now because I get that confused with Scythe. But it has that kind of similarity where you need to get so many stars and then you win the game. So near the end of the game, you're just starting to sweat almost because you can see everybody else is 1 or 2 away and you're 1 or 2 away, but you're going to get 2 literally in the next turn or 2. But it's neat because your dice, at the beginning of the round, you all roll your dice. And the thing is, if they are too high, the pips are too high, well, that's not great because that means your workers are getting too smart and they will leave. So you kind of want them to stay a little bit dumb, so not too high. You want to roll under a certain number because then they're still too stupid and they just stay in your world and work for you. and you can go get more workers, which you have to spend water and different resources, which you would have to go and collect beforehand. But And then you also have to feed them as well at the end of the round. I think you have to have so much food or whatever. But so it's kind of like a balance. Like, yeah, I want to get all these workers, but if I roll them too high, I'm going to lose one of them. So, do I get more and just kind of roll them and hope for the best? But it's really neat, and it's just one of those games like that just gets my heart going, because you get like halfway through, you're like, okay, yeah, no, I'm like 2 ahead of everybody or whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody bumps up and they're 1 ahead of you, and you're like, no, I gotta figure it out. I gotta go here, but I need this resource. I have to get this to go there first to complete this, because there's also these I forget what they're called, but they're like cards that go on the board that can hinder you if somebody else or two other people complete this and you haven't gotten on this card, then it kind of puts you back, like, because so you all have to try and build these little areas, I think they're locations, together, because if you don't, you can really get, have a disability in some other way that you're placing your dice. So it's really neat and very colorful. Like the board and the art is gorgeous on this, and it's about a euphoric world or a dystopia where you're in this, like you're getting it's almost like gas that you're collecting, and that makes you happy or something. Like it's kind of got this weird theme, but it's so pretty and it's a cool board. And this game doesn't really get talked about that much, but it is really unique and it's really cool. And it's by one of my favorite designers, Jamie Stegmaier. So that's my number 7, Euphoria.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. You never played this one?
No, I haven't. It's one that I've been wanting to try. Like it's been okay, like, but it never happened.
Yeah.
And then that sounds hilarious. My number 7 is one that I played for the first time this week. I made a point of getting this one played because I know we were doing this list, and that's Jamaica. This was a gift from our Family Plays game. I won this on their anniversary episode, and they sent me Jamaica and they sent me the Crew expansion. I haven't tried the Crew yet, but we played the Jamaica. And it is published in 2007. It's published by Space Cowboys, and the designer is Malcolm Braff, Bruno Cathala, and Sebastian Pochon. And I ended up playing it with Jerome and Patrick, and it's rare that they'll actually play with me, but we had our first real snowstorm. Jerome unfortunately hit the ditch trying to leave, so then we turned around and went back home. And I was like, what do you think the chances are I can talk you guys into a game? Like, yeah, sure. So we ended up playing this one. And this is really a race. So you're pirates. You each have your pirate ship, and you're trying to go around the board and be the first one to get back to Port Royal. But depending on which side of the path you're going to go on, where you land, you may have to, you're at sea and you need to have food to be able to feed your crew while you're at sea. Or you're in port and then you need to have gold to be able to pay the port fees for being there. Or you can land in some of these pirate coves where you can actually collect treasures. And some of these things will give you different resources, or they'll give you maybe different abilities. And then you all have like a cargo hold that you can hold all of these goods that you have, but then you can only have that many. There's 5 spaces. And you, like on your turn, you roll the dice, and then you decide which goes on the left spot, which goes on the right spot, because you have your action cards. Now, these action cards are beautiful. It's like a whole neat theme. And then on the top corner, there's like, okay, the right action or the left action would be that you move, and the left action would be that you collect gold, or there's different combination of this. So then you're looking at them and you decide how many times do you want to do that based on the pip of the dice that you roll. So if I rolled a 2 and a 3, I could do it so that I move 2 and then collect 3 gold, or different combination. And then I'll select where the dice go, put my action card face down. Everybody puts their action card of what they're going to do. Now, if you have no resources left because you spent it all, you probably shouldn't be moving right now. Because if you move and then you can't pay the fee that you're supposed to, well, then you lose some of the stuff that you have. So you're trying to avoid that. But it was neat. It was quick and simple to play. So I'm excited to see how the Crew will change this up a little bit, because it is a simple game. But a straightforward racing game, right? So it was cool. So that's my number 7, Jamaica.
Yeah, this one was on my honorable mention, and I thought you might have it on your list.
There you go.
I just haven't played it for so long, and I really want to try with the expansion, so I might have to borrow your expansion and just see if it's worth for me buying someday after you just got it, so in a while. But I love the art on it. And the neat thing about the main game, I mean, it's neat, but kind of a pain in the butt too, is because you probably have the second version, I'm assuming.
I think so.
So the first version, the instructions are literally a map. Like you have to fold it out and hold it up like this, which is very thematic but annoying when you're like trying to like play a game and you have this giant map you have to flip out and look out over. So yeah, I'm interested to see the difference in the games, like what else they changed in it. But it's just beautiful. Like the box art, you open it up and just the trays. Like I'm curious how
it has a really neat insert. Yeah,
it's very well done insert. But yeah,
I recorded the unboxing of it, so that'll be posted on my channel soon. But
okay, I'll look at that. Did you unbox the expansion in there too?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm curious too, compared to the first one, because it's like all a bunch of cards, right? Yeah, I'll have to have a look at that one. Perfect. Well, keeping into the pirate theme, my number 6 is Port Royal, made by Alexander Pfister in 2014. And this is a push your luck card game that you are just racing to get to 12 points. They call it something else, but it's points. And how you do that is you literally, there's no setup. Well, there's a tiny bit of setup. You pull out the cards, shuffle them, give each player 3 coins face down, which the coins are on the back of the cards, so they can't look at their cards. Those are just their money. And then you start playing. And what you do is you just flip a card and you decide if you're going to stop there or keep going. And if the way that you can bust is if you flip over the same color of ship. So it's not just ships in there. There's ships, there's different people that you can hire. Like a governor is like one of the best ones, because if you hire him, they all give you points, but he will let you draft more than one card out of the middle, like once you're done your turn. Or even when somebody else has done their turn and they've bought something, then it comes around and you have a chance to buy as well. You just have to pay them a coin to do it. But it's so neat, and it's such a heart racing game too. Me and my husband play this. This was one of his favorites early on, because we would like get so close, and then it could be like a 10-minute game, or it could be a 20-minute game. It could be half hour if you kind of keep going back and forth kind of thing. And you can play, now I can't remember the player count, but I think you can play up to a certain amount. It's not one you'd want to play with a whole bunch, because other than waiting for them to flip all their cards and the market to come to you, I mean, there would be a lot of downtime, but it's so fun. And it's just, there's unique abilities on these crew that you can hire. Like there's like she's not called a mistress, but a madame, I think. And she will make every person cheaper to hire kind of thing. But it's kind of neat. And they have like some expansions. And so I had bought the game and the 2 expansions, and then they came out with a big box, of course.
Of course.
And the art and the reason why, so I sold my first editions and I bought the big box, because I bought each expansion, but one of them, the cards did not match the other cards. They're slightly bigger, and that drove me insane, because you shuffle them and it's like you 2 different size cards. So yeah, I ended up selling that, and I got the big box, and the art on them is so nice, and they all are perfectly the same size, and it's such a fun push your luck game. And that's my number 6, Port Royal.
That is one that I bought recently over the summer, and I haven't played it yet. So I'm excited to get it played.
Your family will like it, I think. If they like those other card games, I think they'll really like it.
Yeah, that one looks cool. Wonderful. So that was your number 6, you said, right? Yeah. My number 6 is Long Shot, the dice game. This wasn't published in 2022. It's created by Chris Handy, and it's published by Perplexed. And this is one that we played at Malcon. And we played a few rounds of it, and it's a roll and write, basically. And you're bidding on these horses. It's a horse race, and you would roll, and then depending on which horse is moving, then, or like you on your turn, you would kind of select which horse you want to move, and you're buying tickets on these horses, trying to get them to win. But depending on the, like, some were worth more than others. And then some of them you could buy things that made it so that if one horse moved, the other ones would move. Like, it would kind of trigger for another one to move also. So kind of manipulate more the horses. And then there was where you could buy the jerseys and the helmets, and like a roll and write where you could activate these other things as well. But I remember playing it, and we played one round, but like, okay, again. We played the next round right away. But then you're limited by the money as well, and what you can bid on, and that sort. Like, it was neat. If I come across this one, it's definitely one that I want to take home. And it was so cool, and the whole horse racing thing. So that's my number 6, Long Shot, the dice game.
Yeah, your family will love this game. I love this game.
So.
I had bought it just before Mother's Day, and we played it. I had thought about it during the Kickstarter launch, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. But it did get so many good reviews, and so when it finally came to retail, I'm like, I'm gonna try this. And like, I just thought, oh, it's like a roll and write, but it's more than a roll and write. It's a race. And the only reason I didn't include on my list was just there's a lot of adding at the end that it's not just who finishes, but it's totally a race.
This is definitely the race is the theme more than the mechanism.
But it's such a good game. Good choice. Yeah, you have to pick that one up for sure. All right, my number 5 is Space Base, made in 2018 by John D. Clare. Now, this one kind of took over the mechanism from Machi Koro, which I also have and I like, but I love Space Base. So what you are doing in this one is you just roll dice, and if you happen to have a card on you have this big long player board that you're going to purchase all these different spaceships cards that are going to go into these slots. And you do start with 2, I believe. And so say you roll a 5 or a 1 and a 4, you can either activate your 4 and your 1, or you could activate your 5 if you have cards there. And so on my turn, I activate the main feature of it. But if somebody else rolled those, I would activate the top portion, which is red, I believe, of the card. So there's 2 sides of your card. And, there's one side of your card, but once you purchase another card for that same number, you take this one out and you flip it upside down, and it sticks in the top of your board. And then that is what you'll get to collect when somebody else rolls. So you go along and you try to collect a card for almost every number, especially like the higher probable ones that will be rolled, like 7s and things like that. Because if you had like 4 or 5 reds stacked at the top and you rolled a 7, you'd get to activate all those. So it's kind of neat. You kind of build a little engine. But what you do is, so on your turn, you will collect your rewards, which will either be points or some income or some credits, which are money. And then you will move up your little cube to your what your money is at. And then you can buy something from the middle. And so you'll want to buy more cards that will help you, but there's also this stack of cards over here, which are basically points, big points, but those cost a lot of money. So do you save up a whole bunch of money and buy one of these big points, but then it blocks one of your card slots because then you don't ever collect anything there anymore? Or do you just build up these little cards to build your engine and get more things? And once you move your income up, your credits will never go past that point anymore. So if I build my income up to 10, every round I'll always have 10 plus whatever I get in my rolls. So it's kind of interesting, because you really want to build up your income, but when do you start building points? Because then you start to race. The race is whoever gets to 40 points first is the winner. And so it's interesting because at the beginning everyone's kind of building an engine, but then you kind of look over and, oh, geez, that guy's already at 20 points. I didn't even notice him collecting points. So you're like, I got to start getting points here quick. And it might be too late. So you got to keep an eye on what everybody's doing because, it's the teeter-totter. When do you keep building your engine? Oh, when do you start just collecting points? And I had one game of this where we literally, because everybody gets a chance. So if I get to 40 and I was the first player, everybody gets one more turn, right? So we were playing like a 4 or 5 player game, and me and this other girl, we had tied at 40. So then it goes into like OT, like an overtime round, and then we tied again, and then we went again, and then we tied. I think we tied 3 or 4 times, and then it finally, I think I pulled off the win, but it was just, it's so fun.
Jeez.
And it's like, so it's similar to Machikoro, how, you roll a dice and you have to build these buildings, and whoever builds the 6 buildings first wins, but people will steal money from you and can steal buildings, so it's really neat as well. I prefer the space-based version. My husband loved Machikoro. We played it and played it and played it, and he kept playing it until he could actually win the game. And then I got the legacy version of it, so nice. We played that with the family. But there's also another like version of this game. I say version because it's the same mechanic coming out, and it's called Bad Company. And I think it's been released, but it's kind of out of stock. But it's like you're building a crew of criminals, I believe, and how you build up your engine is that you keep adding to these cards, and it makes the person taller and taller and taller.
That's funny.
So, and I don't know what the other mechanics are, but it's supposed to be really, really neat as well. So it's kind of the same theme, but Space Base is awesome. It also had a little like campaign expansion, which was really cool. Me and Cherry went through, and I think it's on its 4th little expansion. I haven't got the final one yet, but it's such a neat game, and I haven't played it in a while. I got to get this back to the table, but that's Space Base, my number 5.
Yeah, that's a great one. I know my boys love Machikoro, and we got Space Base, but I don't think this one was a Machikoro replacement for us just yet. Yeah. All right, so that was your number 5. My number 5 is Camel Up. And I'm going to say 2nd edition. I think it plays the same as the 1st edition, but the 2nd edition has a different publishing date, and that's what I wrote down. So it was published in 2018. It's a Stefan Bogen game, and it was published by Eggert Spiel. And this one is cool, and it plays quick. Honestly, it plays really quick. And you have all these little camel meeple things, and then you have the 2 that are facing the opposite way. And you have this plastic pyramid that you put the dice in, and they all have dice that goes from like 1 to 3, I believe, and of the different colors for each camels. And you shake your pyramid, and you push a button on the side, and a dice pops down the bottom, and then that's the camel that moves. And then it'll go, so many spaces, but they're kind of designed where the camels can land on top of each other. And then if the camel, let's say the blue camel moves, but there's other colored camels on top, well, then they all move forward. So it really kind of makes the race unpredictable. And then you can bid on who you think is going to win the race. You can bid on who you think is going to lose the race, but you're also bidding on the round of who you think is going to win at the end of this particular round. And like there's different actions that you can do. So you can bid, you can put like cheering things on the side of the race so that if a camel lands there, you get money, but then they move forward by 1 and they go backwards by 1 and so on. And then you have this white and the black camel that are racing the opposite way. They're going the wrong way. So if a camel ever lands on the white one and then the white one moves, it's going to move it backwards, which kind of could totally mess what you've been bidding for, right? And then when it goes at the end of the game, and it goes until a camel wins the race, and then that triggers the end of the race, and the end of the game, and then you tally up all the points for the bids and stuff. And whoever bid correctly first would get more points than who bid correctly afterwards, which would be kind of much better than just bidding wrong altogether, which is what I tend to do. So, but it's neat. The artwork is cool. It plays quick. It'll play a large group of people too. I think it's 8 players with this one, or
yeah, something like that.
Like the player count's up.
I think because you can. I think with the higher player count, I don't know if you work in teams or there's something where you work together. Some of you, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a really neat one, and it looks super cool. Oh, because I've even mentioned you open the board.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a pop-up board. There's like this whole oasis that pops up off the board. It's a neat looking game. And that's my number 5, Camel Up.
Awesome. My number 4 is The Quest for Dorado, made in 2017 by good old Reiner Knizia. This game has been on a few of my lists as well, but it's a total race game because you are racing to the end. But how you do this is it's a deck builder as well, and you are building up your deck to be able to move through all this different terrain to get to the end. And it's at the beginning it feels like, oh, I don't need to build any cards, I'll just keep playing my cards. And then you get to a point where, oh, I can't get anywhere with any of my cards, so I have to get somewhere it has like 3 paddles on it, because when you go through water you need these like paddle icons. And so you can never combine cards together to move in on a terrain. You can split up one card, but if you don't have a card that has 3 paddles, you'll never be able to move through that. So you might have to go the long way then and go like around the board kind of and through instead of going the shortest path. But then the other neat thing on there is there's these volcanoes, and if you stop by them at the end of your turn, you get to pick up a tile, and it always gives you like a unique ability that you can typically one time use. It might give you 3 paddles, and you're like, whoa, I don't even need to buy any. But how you buy these cards is you either use your coin cards or you use each card is a half a dollar, I believe.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so you're like, okay, I'm just not going to move this round. I'm just going to build. And some people will literally just build their deck and not move. And you're like halfway there and you're like, oh, I'm just flying. I'm going to kill these guys. And then all of a sudden, like, you didn't build anything. You can't get any further. And these people have this deck that is just stacked and they just fly by you. One turn, they get to almost where you're at. The next turn, they pass you. So
yeah,
it's like that balance again. How much do I build? How far do I go? And another unique thing is, you have this market in front of you, which has 5 stacks of cards, I believe 5 or 6. Once one of those stacks gets empty, because there's only 3 or 4 cards in there, then whoever depleted that pile gets to choose from this big top market to pull another stack down, which are not available until they come down to this main market. And so those are like the real juicy ones up there. The starting ones are good, but the juicy ones are at the top. So you're trying to deplete this one pile so you can get, I really need that one up there. And it's just so neat. And I love this game so much, but I haven't really found anyone that loves it. Like, I'll play it with some people. They're like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? This game is awesome. I love it so much. But yeah, that's my number 4, The Quest for Dorado.
You know, I gotta say, when I made my list, I forgot about this one.
Yeah.
I didn't put it, but it's great. I remember last time I played it was at, not the last Malcolm, the Malcolm before my sister was over. And I texted her from my bed saying, okay, well, let me know when you're up. She's like, I am up. And she sent me a picture of the game all set up. So I'm waiting for you to play this. And I was like, oh, okay, coming out. So, because she owned it and had never played it. So I want you to teach it to me. So then we played it.
Nice.
It's a great game. All right, my number 4 is also a Reiner Knizia game, and it's Formula Motor Racing. It was published in 1995. This is by far the oldest game on my list, and it's published by GMT Games. And this one is, it's ugly. This is an ugly-looking game. You look at the cards, and they're not impressive to look at. Everybody gets a colored 2 race car of a color. So maybe you're purple or maybe you're yellow or red or whatever. And you'll take turn kind of flipping a card of the different colors to show the order of this race. So the first one that comes in is going to be in the middle position. Then the next one's going to have 1 in front, 1 behind, and the next one, and so on, until all the race cars are in the race, in the lineup. And then you'll be playing cards, and the cards will be like, okay, you move yellow by 3 spaces. But then, so you'll look at one of the yellow race cars and you get to move it up 3 spaces. But the car behind it gets to drift along and it kind of moves up as well. And it was funny. We played with the kids. This is one that the kids will play no questions asked. And then Jerome and Nick are like, here, Nick, I'll help you out. Shake and bake, baby. And then, it was just quoting Telegata night the whole game through, right? But and you're playing until you run out of cards. That triggers the end of the race, and then you tally up whoever's in first position gets so many points, second position gets so many points, and so on. And then you'll do a few race, and whoever's accumulated the most points at the end is the winner. But it's such a neat game and then sometimes you can play cards like, okay, well, I'm making the red car go into a pit stop. And then it's kind of like, then they roll a dice. And if it's like rolls in the low range, then nothing happens. It didn't actually pit. But then if it goes in the high range, they do pit and it moves them to the back of the line. It's like, oh, really? Why would you do that? Like, it's hilarious. And it's one that we really enjoy. And that's Formula Motor Racing.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that sounds fun to try that one. All right. So my number 3 is New York Zoo, made in 2020 by Uwe Rosenberg. Now, you wouldn't typically think a tile laying game could be a race game, but this one is a race. You're just trying to fill your board and that's it. Whoever fills it, boom, they're done. They win the game. And I don't even know if I've ever won this one. Maybe once, and I've played it with different people. My daughter, I wouldn't have played my husband. I would have beat him at a tile laying game. But all like gamers, and yeah, it's such a neat game because all you're doing is trying to build up your board. But how you do that is there's these polyomino tiles that you draft, and they are enclosures for animals. So you start off with 2 animals, and if you draft a tile, you get to take one of those animals from your home, they call it, and you place it on your polyomino. Now, however big that tile is, so if it's a 5 square polyomino tile, that's what you need to fill that enclosure. Now, the other thing you can do as you move around the board, other than collect tiles, is you can collect animals as well. But you need to have a spot for them. So if you don't have room in your home base, which I think you have 2 or 3 spots, then you would have to put them in an enclosure. And they can only go in an enclosure that they're already in, or if you have an empty enclosure. And then they will breed. So as you're moving along the board to collect the tiles or the animals, you pass these breed spots. So one spot might breed penguins and flamingos. And so then if you have those on your board, they all breed, and typical Uwe Rosenberg style, they only give you 1 baby. So it doesn't matter if you have 5 in there, you only get 1. But if I had 3 flamingo enclosures, they would each breed 1. So it's each enclosure. And then once you fill that enclosure, you take them all off, and you will put one of your animals back in your home if you have room, so that you can still use them to breed again. But then you get to grab one of these bigger tiles that from like this other area to fill up your board. So it's not just like Tetrisy where you're trying to fill it in, but you have to be smart about getting the animals on your board in order to breed like very sufficiently, so that you can get a whole bunch of animals every time you go around. So you want to try to have like at least 1 of each enclosure, or you could go the route where you have like just 1 animal but a whole bunch of enclosures, and then you just keep breeding them. But it's really neat, and it doesn't sound like it would be like get your heart pumping, but it does, because you get close to you all have this little corner left, and then sometimes you've screwed up your Tetris part, and you have like 3 or 4 little single tiles you need filled in. Well, that's going to take 3 or 4 times of filling enclosures to finish that, which is usually what ends up happening with me, which is probably why I don't win, because then I need 4 times to do that, whereas somebody else just needs that 1 tile of like a 3x1, and so they're like, yeah, done. I just have to get 1 more, fill up 1 more, and yeah, no, it's fun. I really like it, and that's my number 3, New York Zoo.
Neat. My number 3 is Steampunk Ralley. It was published in 2015. It's created by Oren Bishop and published by Roxley Games. And this is like a race game. It's so neat. Like each character plays as some sort of inventor throughout history, but it's very steampunk based. The artwork is really neat. Kind of has that steampunk look to it. So maybe you're, Tesla, or you're Marie Curie, or different like all these different historical figures that you can play as. And then you start with your cockpit card that has your character and one piece of the engine that you would put together. And then it's a drafting game. So you have 4 cards and you decide which one to keep. And you can keep either for adding it to your ship or vehicle, I'm not sure what you would call it, or you could keep it to collect what's on the top and you would get dice or gears or different things. And then so you put one down and you pass it around and you get the next bunch and you would add another and then so on until you've got these 4 cards added this round. And then you add these to your ship. And then you would have some dice that you would kind of have collected or that you would had from leftovers from before possibly. But it's interesting because some segment of your ship might have it so that it's steam powered. So if it's steam powered, you need to put the blue dice onto it to activate the different action that it does. And it could be that it makes it so that you move forward, or maybe it's just an ability that allows you to remove some of these dice, because once you've activate these different sections that makes the ship move forward and you're racing through this map, these dice clutter up your ship, and then they stay there until you spend some of the gear to remove the dice. But you don't remove the dice depending on what it is. So if you have a dice that has 4 pips, 1 gear would move it down so that it's down to 2 pip. So you would need to spend 2 gear to fully remove that dice, and then maybe kind of gets you to move. But then there's rough terrain as well. So if you go through rough terrain on the map, it would cause your vehicle to take some damage, and you kind of keep track of that on this little kind of gear wheel thing. Is that okay? Well, I'm at 2 damage, but then you have some ability to have a smooth ride. So either you're flying, so you're not hitting the rough terrain, or you're digging underground, so it's kind of smooth things out. But if you do the smooth ride, you don't take the damage. But if you did take damage, you're losing parts of this ship that you've created, and you got to break stuff off. It's so neat where you kind of create this thing, because you have all these, like, you have a physical ugly looking ship, because it's, like, growing up, we used to take lumber from my dad and then hammer things together, and they look atrocious. Well, so does this. In the end, like, it's not like a neat looking vehicle. It's just all, well, I mean, it's neat, but it's not coherent, right? Like, it's messy looking, but it's so neat. And then you're placing these dice and you're activating it, and then, okay, now we got to flush these out, so you can activate it again. Like, the whole feel of it is so fun. It is so fun, and you're physically racing around on this map and using this ship to move you forward, and it's so cool. And that's my number 4. My number 3, Steampunk Rally. Now, they have Steampunk Rally Fusion, and I do have a copy of that game, but I haven't played it yet. So.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Oh, I know.
So many good ones. Do you make lists of what you want to play next? I start doing that, and then I have a list of like 30 games.
Right? It's crazy. Well, like, you know what? I got the BGG stat app, and then I'll go like my own unplayed game, and then I'll kind of randomly select one. There's a button that will randomly select one. It's like, okay, I'm going to learn this one today, and then I'll watch videos and kind of learn, but it doesn't always get to the table. But, I have dreams.
Yeah, I know. I have lists for almost every person in my life that I play with.
Nice.
A giant list. This is what we're going to play. And then, like, my daughter will be like, okay, I'm coming over. We'll play like 3 or 4 roll and writes. And I'm like, okay, I go to my list and I'm like, what do I want to play most? And then,
that's funny.
I'll pull out 8 games. And she's like, oh, I said like maybe 3 or 4. I'm like, I know, but just in case,
Pick from here.
You never know. We might get through 5.
That's funny.
But yeah, so all you people in my life, I have lists for you, all of you.
You're in when you got a list.
Yeah. And then the minute you mention, oh yeah, let's have a game night, I'm making a list for you, just so you know.
Oh, that's funny. Nice.
Even my BGA people that I play with.
Oh, you have lists for them?
You. I have lists. Griff, I got a list out there for you. We played a lot, but yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, so now that was your number 3. My number
Yeah.
2 is kind of a tie because these games are both very similar, and it's Nova Luna and Framework. And these
Yes.
two are both by the same designer, Uwe Rosenberg. And the first Nova Luna was made in 2019 and Framework was 2022. And these are just race games because all you're trying to do is get your little discs onto tiles. The first one to do it wins. And it's a puzzle game. That's all it is. It's a puzzle race game, and you are racing to do this. And how you do this, and each one is very similar, is you draft tiles, and you put a tile on your board, and each of the tiles wants different tiles surrounding it. So that's all you're trying to do. But it sounds very simple, but it's not, because the tiles on them, like in Nova Luna, will only have certain colors on them. And like one of them will, if you put it like on the top of yours, it has to point to that one. So it has to be in that general area, like arrow. Whereas in Framework, it just has to be around it, but it can be connected with a bunch of other light colors, which is the same in Nova Luna, but it just uses frames in a different way because it'll have like 3 or 4 squares around it in Framework, whereas in Nova Luna will just have the one basically, but the one, it'll give it a color, but it also wants certain things around it. So they're just so unique. And I have a game coming that is based on Nova Luna, but it has a theme on it, and it's called Habitats, and it's about animals that want to be surrounded by certain habitats and animals. And then you have objectives, and so it's basically Nova Luna, but then it builds and adds to it. So
Oh, cool.
and I should be getting that one really soon. It was a Kickstarter. But these two I just love. And Sagani is the third in that series, which is really cool too. But it adds diagonal, that you can have things diagonal. Wow. So it's really neat as well. But I still love these two more than that one. And yeah, that's my number 2, Nova Luna and Framework.
Yeah, that was my number 10. It just missed my list. Yeah, but it is neat, and it definitely has that race feel because you're just trying to put... Yeah, and I mean, the first time I played with Carla, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm doing not too bad. About half of my discs are on, and then I looked up, and she puts up her last one. I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't do good at all, but it was so cool. My number 2 is Downforce, published in 2017, created by Restoration Game, and it was Rob Davio, Justin D. Jacobson, and then Wolfgang Kramer were the designers. And I played this one for the first time at FallCon, and it's one that everybody talks about. Race game, Downforce is like Downforce is the game everybody talks about, and I was like, okay, really? Let's give this a try and see. And then it was great. And you bid on your race car, and then based on the cars that you have, because you have these cars that'll have different colors on it, but the top number normally has more movement to it than the lower one. And so if you're looking at your cars like, wow, I've got a lot of black movements, I'll bid on the black car. And you can bid whatever you want. Like, okay, I'll bid 20 million. But, like, I don't know, like it's in millions. But what happens though is what you end up bidding to buy, like you also have along the track different bid section where you're going to bet on who you think is going to win the race at that point. So you're 1/3 into the race and be like, okay, I think the yellow car is going to win. So you kind of mark that down. I think it's the yellow car. And then you go 2/3 into the race. It's like, yeah, okay, the yellow car is not winning. It's going to be the red car. And then you would write down the red car or whatever. But so you have like these different sections where you're bidding on who you think is going to win and then who actually wins. And then you got to take what you bid into buying that car. And then, so like you take all your winnings and then remove the money you spent bidding on your race car, and then you would get whatever's left, as whoever has the most money is the winner, right? But if your own race car wins, then you get the prize money for that as well on top of your bidding money and so on. So I sucked. I did so bad. But it's so interesting because sometimes the track gets really narrow and you get blocks. Like, great, I got a 4 movement, but I can only move by 1 because the blue car is in the way. Great. And I was like, okay, well, we're not moving the blue car right now, keeping you, like it has a bit of that, take that element a bit as well. But it was really neat and it was really fun. And that's my number 2, Downforce.
That's such a good game. This was the other one in my honorable mention that I thought you would have on the list.
Oh, yeah.
And the only reason it's in my honorable mention and not on my list is because I haven't played it for so long. But I love this game too. It's so fun. I used to play it at the cafe all the time and have played it with the family. My son always wins this game. I don't know how. But I can't wait to play this again. His girlfriend's coming home from school. She's in Kentucky playing ball. And she has a scholarship there, so we don't get to see her just in the summer and then at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And she's coming down in a couple of weeks. I can't wait because she loves games. So her and my son play games all the time, and then I get to creep in there sometimes and join them. So I can't wait to play this. Good choice. I love it. All right, number ones. Well, my number one is Istanbul. And Istanbul dice could just be very well as equal. And this is made in 2014, Istanbul. The dice game he made in 2017. And this is Rudiger Dorn. Oh, Rudy, do you know how to make collecting rubies fun? Who would have thought? But it is such a good game. If you have, I know you've played the dice game, but you have to play the big game too. It's so awesome. And the nice thing is, like, typical Euros, I mean, you have the track of points, or you have to add up all these points at the end or whatever, which is totally fine. I'm a math person. It doesn't bother me. But this one, you don't add anything up. You just get to 6 rubies. Is it 6 now? It's different for player count, so it depends.
Oh, okay, right.
You just have to collect them, and that's it. And you just have to figure out the most sufficient way to do it. And it's so fun because you go around to all these different areas. You have these workers that are stacked. You have, I think, 4 or 5. And then you have this main guy. And he moves with them all. So anytime you move to a location, you drop one off. And then you keep moving and drop one off. And then likewise, as you go back to those locations, you pick them up. So if you ever end up with no workers, you can't do anything at that location. Like, I don't know if this master is like, he just doesn't know how to do anything without his workers, but he has to have one of them with him. And then you also have this little, what a lot of people call is their rebel nephew. He is another little character that he can move around the board and, like, he'll do things for you, but if he's ever caught by the cops, he goes to the police station. So it's kind of neat because he can do things on his own, like way across the board, not near you. And you can move him as well. But it's so fun. And the locations, all you're doing is collecting resources or trading them in or trying to get these bonus cards or trying to get, like with expansions, get coffee and then collect coffee and go and sell all this coffee for a ruby and all different kinds of things. And the board is all modular. So it's all like, you can build it completely different every time, which is cool. But I've played this game with gamers. I played it with my husband. He loves it. And it's so fun because you know, you get to like 4 or 5 rubies and you're like, oh, I just need one more turn. And so I had played, and I think I had already told this story, but it's still so funny. Played with Cherry and Ashley, and I had like 5 rubies, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this game in the bag. I just wait for my turn. Hurry up, you two. Just do what you have to do because I'm just going to finish off this game. And so it was me, then Cherry, and then Ashley went, and then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, okay, I guess I win. I'm like, what? No. And I didn't even know she was close to 6. I don't know why I wasn't watching other people, just assuming I was going to be the winner. She totally won and took it from under me, but it's so fun. And the dice game is equally as fun, but so much quicker, even quicker than that game. And the main game, the big one, is only about a 45-minute game, so it's really fast. The dice game can literally be a 20-minute game that you'll want to play 2 or 3 of them, because me and my husband usually do the best of 3 in the dice game. But it's so fun. I love it so much. And I had like kind of waited to get this game because I thought, everyone's like, oh, it's a different version of Yokohama, and I love Yokohama. But to me, it's completely different. It just has a little bit a similar mechanic, but I find it very different and unique enough. I have them both in my collection. I love them both, but this one is actually a race game, whereas Yokohama is not a race. Like you still have to get all your points and whatnot, but it's just so fun. I love it so much, and that's my number 1, Istanbul.
My number 1 is Formula D. published in 2008. It's created by Laurent Lavour and Eric Randall, and it's published by Asmodee. And this is one that my kids just love as well. And the version I have has the shifter, which totally makes the game. So you have this big map in the middle, and that's the racetrack. And you select your little car, and they're like almost like little rubbery type mini cars that you put on, and you have it. And I always go as like the minivan looking one, and I was like, you watch me, I'll win you with this mommy minivan. So mommy and then you play and you shift, so you're in first gear, so you would roll the small dice that was going to be 1 or 2 or 3, and it's a D. Is it a D3? Maybe it's a D3, and then you roll that one, and then you kind of, the start, you could spin out if you don't start quite right. So then you start, and then, okay, now you're moving. So, okay, well, I'm shifting to 2. So now you're into 2, you roll the I don't know, this one's a D4, whatever it is, but you have the different dice for each gear that you're into, and it changes the range of what you're going to get. So in the second gear, you might get between 2 and 4 or something, and you would roll that dice and you move and so on. And then you go into third gear, and now you're like into bigger numbers. Now you're in fourth gear, and then you're rolling this dice and you're rolling even bigger numbers, but now a turn is coming. And in the turn, you like, the turn will be like, okay, this turn has a 2, so that means you need to stop twice in that turn. So you need to kind of have like where you go here and then you stop here again before you get out, because otherwise you have too much speed. And I was like, damn it, the turn is right there and I'm in fourth gear, I'm not going to get those 2 things. So you gotta, okay, shift down, but you can't shift down to first from fourth. You can only shift down to 3, like, and it was like, oh no, okay, come on, small numbers. And then you would roll, and it's like, oh boy, okay, well, I'm shifting down again, and I need to roll just a 2, because if I get a 3, I've blown. And then if you blow through the corners, well, then your vehicle takes damage, and you take brake damage or tire damage and so on, right? It is so thematic. It is so cool. And then that shifting thing, and of course we're all playing making the shifting noise. It was ridiculous. We love it. It's great. And then the shift box, the damage that you keep track of, the whole thing. Then you can play with player power that have like different player characters and abilities, but we've mostly played just a base game, I don't know, just because that's the way it's been, but we love it. And that's my number 1, Formula D. Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds fun too.
Yeah, it really gives you that race feel as well with the stopping in the corners and going. So that was our top 9 race games. Honestly, I don't think we had any crossovers at all.
No, just
like we have 2 very different lists here.
Yeah, very different.
So next week, we're going to be doing our top 9 real-time games. And this is a type of game that I love to feel the pressure. So I really enjoy this genre. I'm looking forward to putting this list together. I haven't yet, but I was reading, real-time games come. I was like, oh yeah, like that one. Oh, and this one. So I'm like slowly thinking about it, and it's going to be another great list. I'm excited to put that one together. But before we end everything, Carla, if we want to find you, where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Boardgame Specialist, all one word. And Facebook, I have a page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics.
Great. And you can find me on Instagram at Mel's_boardgame_room. My Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room, and my YouTube channel is also Mel's Board Game Room. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. So bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening.